actually changing the landscape of business today. I think there are two drivers. One is that employees within organizations are becoming more conscious, waking up to the impact of decisions that they make or their senior execs make in societies and on the planet. And the other piece is very much about, I think the citizen power is growing externally, whether you take social media is creating, is changing the way businesses function. Because every business's reputation is also dependent on what customers, citizens around the world think about them and their actions in the world. So you must have come across so many different scenarios and how that's visible everywhere. I think those two key drivers are kind of shifting the balance between capitalistic pursuits and creating a sustainable society.
Well, the thing that's non-negotiable are the core values. They don't change. 3 or 4 core values, which will be both ethical values and business values. They don't change, but their application in a local culture might do so. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this. I was doing some focus groups, as you described before, an American pharmaceutical company, and they were testing out to see how their code was working out in different geographies. And I found myself in Moscow with 2 focus groups, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And we did a series of things to find out how it was working. And in both those groups was raised this issue. In Russia, they have a thing called, they celebrate in a big way International Women's Day, right? And the normal function, the thing there is that you give to ladies you work with and you have a business relationship with chocolates or flowers or whatever. And this company was forbidden for doing that because it was said it offended against their code, that is giving gifts and all that sort of thing, particularly to employees of the state, state employees. And the health service in Russia is state right. And they all complained bitterly about this. And one of them used this expression to me: we are looked upon as white crows. We stand out as being mean, and it does us harm. Can you do something, he said to me, about this? Well, it's not my job to do so. I was to focus and send back the report. I did take that up to the head of their ethics, whom I knew at a conference I was at in the US later. And she said, well, the local president, the local chairman of that area has discretion on that matter. Well, we made further inquiries that this chap lived in Istanbul. And he didn't have much of a clue about what that culture was like in Russia. So essentially, you take your core values, you don't shift from those, you stick to those, but you ask how do those apply in the local culture, and you give discretion to the, the area, head of the area, wherever it is, in management, to come up with a code that addresses real issues in that culture that people have and works.
Recognising diversity in all its walks and talks and shapes, treating others as they should be treated. So it is about respect, or client value creation is not about making a fast buck, but it is about delivering value to our clients and recognising what is important to them as well. The code is fleshed out by action statements, so it's a resource that you can ask, almost ask a question and see whether there is a dilemma in there that you can access to help you make a decision. And then failing that, if it's not covered by one of the core values or examples, there is an ethical decision-making model at the back of the code. And basically that model just steps you through the decisions that an individual has to make about a particular situation. So the first question you are asked is it legal or illegal? Well, if it's illegal, you know you're not to do it. It's pretty easy. But then you get down into those sort of right versus right dilemmas, or what would be the answer that's best for the community or better for the greater good of more people. It doesn't solve every issue, but it's a way, it's a tool that you can use to help make decisions.
I think I like the one that says, what would some people say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or how I translate that. What would your mother think?
Okay.
What would your mother think if you made this particular decision? But the way, it's all very well having a paper document, it's all very well having a computer-based tool as well. But you need to then attack message dissemination in a number of different ways. Tone from the top and leadership is very important. So you'll get leaders talking about the code in themes are weaved through the communications that come out during the course of the year. In all of our induction, so when people are joining, and milestone schools when people get promoted, there is discussion around the code and core values. There are regular postcards, email postcards that come out just talking about situations to remind people around ethics. And just sort of connected to the way in which we manage our people as well. We have a leadership model of management, which means it's not just about profit turning or profit solving, it's how are you managing our business appropriately as a leader.
So I do believe that it is important to look beyond short-term profits, and it's important to have a sustainable business and something which you can stand up and yes, be proud of to your mother as well as your sort of wife and children you're looking after, or husband, children, whatever. And I think part of the problem has been that over the last 4 years, I suppose, we've changed a bit, but there was a culture of short-termism whereby quoted companies, particularly financial sector institutions, were reporting having to report on a quarterly basis to satisfy shareholders who are pension funds who are us, so it's all really clear that they're responsible. And the people who were working in those organisations were under the pressure to deliver. If they did deliver short-term profits, they would get a lot of money out of it. And so the question is, would someone stand up there and say, no, that's not ethical? No one did. I don't think anyone did. And there required the world to collapse, laws to be implemented to stop it.
A simple point about is greed ethical? And the question becomes, what kind of greed and what level of greed? I mean, if we look at economics textbooks, the aim of business should be to maximize profits. But then, in a way, what you're also doing is maximizing greed. And what we often find when greed is maximized is someone loses and someone gains. And quite often, it's a lot of people lose and a few people gain. And what that creates is more and more inequality. So, I think when we talk about ethics, we have to address the bigger questions as much as the smaller questions. What are the basic principles of business? What is the basic motive behind profit? Should businesses go for profit at any cost? Should businesses take a responsibility about not to perpetuate inequality in society? For example, the issue about maximum salary. What's should management have a maximum salary ceiling beyond which they cannot earn? Because then, if there is no cap on how much management can earn, then effectively what you do is you actually breed inequality. And we also know from other evidence that actually, greed does not just destroy the poor, it also destroys the rich. I mean, America is maybe the richest country in the world, but it is also the most depressed country. So there is scientific evidence that actually greed does not bring permanent happiness. And we need to bring that out to the current core. And this is also why, when we look at Generation Y, nowadays a lot of law firms I hear are finding that young people who join them leave after 5 or 6 years because suddenly they find the pressure too much that they actually they can't find meaning in the work that they do. And actually they are looking for doing something meaningful, doing something which resonates with their inner spirit and their inner soul. So there is a whole shift in demographics. Some of the best talent is now coming from ethical young people, and these will also drive the change. But also for companies to attract them, they need to be ethical, they need to be clear and transparent, and they need to show that they care for the environment, they care for the society from which they recruit. That society is not different from the company. I think the point about law is that actually what's, if an individual commits a crime, it's a criminal offense and you go to jail. If a company commits a crime, very often no person goes to jail. The company is a legal fiction. And what's happened with the Bribery Act, which is interesting, is now the issue has become personal. That actually if individuals within a company are caught perpetuating bribery, they can be arrested and imprisoned. So suddenly the whole debate on ethics has taken a different shift altogether. And so again, we need to look back at the legal charter of a company, limited liability company, which was created for a specific reason, and that reason has completely changed. So you've got now global corporations which are limited liability companies, which have got huge power and very little democratic accountability. So the legal system needs to change, society needs to change.